Hello there, fellow powder monkeys. Rhadamant here. Thank you for tuning in to Corsair Cove. Episode 3, creating our own gunpowder in the cove. Smuggling run, let's do it.
This smuggling crew needs a helping hand. We'll finish their delivery for the right price.
Alright, it's 3 stages, and we are trying to negotiate finishing the smuggling run. So they have deal breaker, where they are trying to have us lose advantage, and we need to gain 108 advantage. What we could do is haggling. Prevent loss of advantage, and then gain 2 die next turn. That'll work. So now we have 3 die. Opponent gains 2, player gains 1. So I can gain a lot of advantage right now, because they're not trying to stop me. There we go. If the player gains more than 12 to 20, 7 advantage, gain 2 die. Well, I don't really want them to gain more die. So what I could do is no risk, no fun. Gain supplies based upon die outcome, and then take twice as much damage to crew, but they're not trying to hurt my crew, so it's fine. So I lost 1 supplies for that action and gained 7, so I'm back to full supplies. Alright, deal breaker. Lose 11 to 12 advantage. Because I just resupplied myself, one of the Amarada's superpowers, what I could do is gain treasure, or... And I'm not going to bother with treasure so much right now, because I don't have a lot of need for gold. Eventually you will. So I'm going to do haggling again. Prevent the loss of advantage to gain more die next turn. Lose 3 to 18. Well, I'm just going to plow right through you. Lose 11 to 12. Let's... I need 12. So I'm not going to be able to do it with cheeky offer. Maybe what we'll do is just haggling again. If player gains more than 24 to... So, counter offer, I'll do no risk, no fun again to gain more supplies. So now we're back up to 18. Because you don't need to rush it, right? Really, if you think of it this way, your supplies is your, like, timer for these encounters, but because Amara can just keep gaining supplies magically as a superpower, she can drag these things out for best advantage. So let's gain some small favors this time. So now I have supplies and coin as a result. And let's just finish them off. Do a cheeky offer. Boom.
The cargo is on board. Now we must make good time. If we're late, the deal will be off.
Okay. Crew overboard. I'll take 1 to 2 crew damage. What I could do is hold fast to prevent the crew damage. And gain extra die next turn. Alright, Tides of Fate. So, let's, crowd on sail, at minimum, gives us 400, which is enough to close distance to target. Done.
We reach the port in time. The buyer is waiting at the tavern. Let's make our way there discreetly.
Alright, back alley fight. Deal 1 to 2 damage to crew. Let's prevent damage to crew. And sneak. Done.
We deliver the wares on time and are rewarded handsomely.
So we gained 1 supplies, 6 coin from the theft, then the cohesion and the drifters.
Yeah?
So now I'm going to return home with a ship full of drifters, because we had 3 spare drifters for work, and I felt the need to add to our number. Now with 50 extra, I only have 11 houses available. So anyone decent at math knows that's a problem. So I'm going to get another row of bungalow going here in order to keep people from outrage. And there we go. Whole bunch of houses. Yeah, I can't demolish anything. It has me a bit concerned. I've never had this bug where, like, demolishing became impossible. So... zero room for mistakes.
Next time Amara strikes, we'll be ready.
Alright, there we go. So enough... what happened here was enough black powder was delivered to the small gun tower to produce ammunition. And then we still have 50 gunpowder left over for another round of fighting. Because I did the port run.
Pirates! The crown's wrath will rain down upon you soon.
Oh! Okay. Maybe it was part of the tutorial, I don't know. Because it seems fine now. We're good! Woohoo! Just had to hurry up and wait. So here comes Amara. Coming into port. But this time we have a gun tower to fart on her. Well, okay. Maybe a different word, but you get the point.
Our haven is taking fire.
I like how Honorata's like, yo, what's up? Wiggling in behind. The island is protected and the attacking ship is successfully destroyed. Well done. 5 cohesion. Let her come.
Pieces, you blasted wench.
Yeah, you're probably right. The purpose of that was to prevent me from deleting the gun tower.
No
Probably.
sign of Amara and the wreckage. I believe she escaped.
Damnation. Can't that woman stay dead for once?
I told you. It takes more than that to kill a captain.
Okay, so we still need more tents. Like, what I've queued up isn't enough.
Finally. Back at me tavern again. Now, I had something to say before we were so rudely interrupted. Let's all come together and set a course for our future. Gather round me, mateys. We have a grand opportunity here. In this place, with this crew, we can build a haven for pirates. But first, we must agree on what that means. Not every pirate wants the same in life. What principle do we as captains represent? Some of us seek fame and notoriety. Others want the power to start an empire. Some are eager to master the seas, while others simply want to be rich. There are many ways to pirate greatness. Whatever path we choose, 5 great trials will mark our rise. We will create our own pirate legacy and shape this island into a true pirate haven.
All right. So there's 4 paths to progress here. Notoriety, empire, seafaring, and wealth. You can do them all at once or one at a time, individually, however you'd like. The notoriety is Phoenix on the Run, and News for Enrique is the empire, Charting with Charlie is the seafaring, and Raven in the Jungle is the wealth. And those are the main quests. There will also be a lot of side quests to be revealed as well. Let's also go to the compass now.
Notoriety, empire, seafaring, and wealth. These are the 4 winds that shape a pirate's journey. Each one pulls us towards a different fate, and each offers its own rewards. We can devote ourselves to one, chase glory in a single direction, or try to master them all. The choice is ours, but progress must be earned.
Okay, so this is the compass of, like, progress. Think of it as like a talent tree, but for your empire or your haven. So things like a crow's nest, or an aerial lift, or more efficient sawmills, that kind of thing. And you unlock these through deeds.
We must complete great deeds. They'll grant us progress and push us further along the four winds, shaping the kinds of pirates we are. Let us complete these deeds and reap their juicy rewards.
So when you complete a deed, like performing a smuggling run, it will give you a unlock for notoriety. So if we check back at the compass here, as you can see, we can now unlock Walk the Plank, improves sawmill production by 1, or Zipline. Let's unlock Zipline.
I don't believe this one.
Additionally, if I get at least 3 in notoriety, I get a better ship, the Moonlight, which is a prowler. Each of these ships here correlate to the types of missions that they're best at. So for instance, if you want to sink ships, you would want to build up your empire to get combat ships, like the Iron Fist. If you want to smuggle and build up your wealth, you'd want the Shark Tooth. On top of that, there is hybrid ships. So if we unlock 3 points in notoriety and 3 in empire, we get the Azimuth, which is a 2+. And a 2+ ship is going to be stronger than just a 2 ship. So anytime you have access to a plus ship, it's better. So for instance, here's the Iron Fist, and here's the Steel Edge. And as you can see, its health goes up, and its supplies goes up, its crew go up, its speed goes up, its boarding damage goes up, its maneuverability goes up. It's just simply a better ship. And in order to unlock that one, for instance, we would need 3 points in Seafaring and 3 points in Empire. Now, my 2 cents, it's usually worth having 2 ships of opposite type, in my opinion, just pure opinion. You could have 4 ships, 1 for each specialty, or even more than that if you want. But my 2 cents, having a combat-oriented ship and a smuggling and maneuverability-oriented ship, so like in this case, the Steel Edge and the Gold Seeker, are probably your best bet. The other thing to note here is crew type, because that will massively change what you do to support that fleet. So the Azimuth and the Huracan require scallywags, and scallywags require cassava bread, whereas the Steel Edge and the Gold Seeker have scallywags, or picaroons rather, and picaroons require rum. So if we chose to do like Steel Edge and Huracan, we would need 2 different types of foods, right? We would need cassava bread and rum. And if we did Steel Edge and like Gold Seeker, we would just need rum, and then so on and so forth. So it also heavily changes what types of resources that you'll need to source. And all of the tier 2 ships will require basically picaroons or scallywags as the improved version of crew. So if we just crew it up purely in Swabby's upkeep is just like slop and beer. They're cheap, but they don't really provide a lot of bonuses. Whereas, as you can see here, if when I mouse over it in the Iron Fist, it actually improves the stats of the ship. So it's way better to crew up with, you know, the best possible crew that you can get. And as you get later on in the game, it gets a lot more expensive, right? Like, tier 6, right? You're talking like you need an arsenal and an expedition supplier, and the arsenal and expedition supplier has a long supply chain to be able to support those troops. Plus, that's a massive amount of crew. So the question is, what type of mission are we going to want to undertake initially, which will indicate what type of ship I'm going to build. So in the overlay here, here's a little poll. We can work towards notoriety, empire, seafaring, or wealth, and I'll try to build ships and adapt in roughly that direction. So if like the majority of you say seafaring and empire, I'll work towards trying to get a steel edge. If you say, you know, notoriety and seafaring, I'll work towards trying to get a gold seeker. And with that in mind,
the task is clear. Let's get to it, me hearties.
All right, let's go. With that in mind, there's a bunch of different missions out here that are going to be really difficult for... There isn't like a one-size-fits-all jack-of-all-trades type ship. So like, going to charting with Charlie requires a fast ship. Whereas going to the news for Enrique requires a ship capable of combat. And you're not going to have a ship that does both well enough to make it easy. You might be able to eke out victories by like having the best crew possible and like a captain that can kind of manage it. But generally speaking, you're going to want you know, a ship that can handle the mission, which means that you need like multiple ships. All right, let's go ahead and cash in our other deeds.
That's the stuff.
So I'm going to get a mast, which is useful for zip lines. And then I'm going to get an aerial lift.
Capital.
Now, if I take a look at the deeds here, because it looks like you guys want me to work on Empire, completing events with Teach, and pillaging a crown port, and building 3 pirate camps is one way to quickly get Empire up. So let's, I'm going to pause a second. Now that we have the small gun tower, we're going to want the ability to support it. And a guano gatherer, so your gunpowder needs guano, and it also needs a char burner. A char burner burns wood and stone to make like char, and then the guano gatherer. So in order to make our own gunpowder from scratch, which is going to be important long term for our own defense, we'll need a guano gatherer. So if we zoom out here, you can see where all the guano is on this island. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to build another pirate camp. So my current priority right now is to support the gun tower. And what that means to me is building up another pirate camp somewhere around here that covers the guano gatherer as a resource. The other thing to note is this. If I build the pirate camp out here, there's another point of attack. Basically, I would be required to defend this vector for an attack. So if I plan this right, what I could do is I could put the pirate camp somewhere where it covers the guano gatherer, but does not, however, include another area for us to defend. Like, here, for instance. And the advantage of putting it there is there's also stone here, which is needed for the char burner. So let's go ahead and get a path out to that. And keep in mind, all of the paths that I'm making right now are like more or less temporary. I can redesign it at any point so that they're more efficient and more direct. And then the other thing is, if I open up my deeds, I was asked to build 3 pirate camps in order to get more empire. And what I could do in this instance is just like build a dummy pirate camp. Basically build one that I don't intend to keep to just fulfill the deed. So I'm just going to stick one there, build it, and then refund it. Because like, I don't need to keep it. So, done. Building 2. And it looks like we're going to work towards Empire initially. So that also means that we are going to want to use Teach.
At your service.
Because if we open up our compass here, go to the deeds, pirate camps, pillage a crown port, and complete events with Teach are Empire deeds. So we'll focus on that. So at the moment, what's happening here is we are struggling to keep up with food supply. And because I know I'm building a second camp, I don't want to build another campfire at the moment, so I'm just going to boost these for now. Because once we have the second camp, people are going to move over to the second camp as I add employment stuff over here. Which means I don't need another campfire there, because that's not where people are going to be eating. Okay. So in order to support the gun tower, let's go through this again. One thing we're going to want is Guano Gatherer. The Guano Gatherer gathers the guano, and guano plus char equals gunpowder. So then what I could do right in this spot here, like next to the Guano Gatherer, is to have the powder mill. And then on top of that, I think it makes sense to stockpile this stuff pretty close to where we're going to want it to use it. So I know I already have a warehouse there. And this warehouse could be used to stockpile that gunpowder. I think that's fine. Now, the other half of this, for the Guano Gatherer, is I'll need the char burner. And the char burner is going to be stone plus wood. So I'll stick a wood camp up here and a stone camp down there. And then put the char burner somewhere in between. Initially, I'm not going to aim for like the most efficient paths possible. But what we can do in this case is to employ something like an aerial lift. So if you take a look, zip lines cost 10 gold. Aerial lifts are very fast across all terrain, but they cost 300 gold. They're very expensive. And then a mast is just 20. And a mast raises it up so that you can have a zip line. Because zip lines require like enough downward direction. I don't think we're going to need an aerial lift for this part of the supply chain. So I'm not going to bother with that. I'll just have a zigzag switchbacking to this. All right, then all of the paths here I just threw in. They weren't planned. So I think what I'll do is build some housing along this cliff towards the camp. And then delete this ridiculously vertical section. Now I am going to want to connect this pirate camp to the everything else. What I'm going to do here is have it, let's see. There we go. And then this, perfect. And now, if I unpause, everything should be, well, if it's not interconnected yet, It will be. I wonder why that isn't saying it's connected. I'll repaint these. I see. This section got screwy. There we go. Perfect. Okay, it's a lot of building tasks, and what they'll do is they'll dispatch the materials needed for this from the original camp. They're still connected. At the moment, there's in the Corsair's Quay, the original camp that we have, there's plenty of housing, food, and beer. And then as people move into this new one, they're also going to need stew. So let's go ahead and get another galley up. And I'll stick a galley right here. Kind of like nestled. Oh, I like that spot. And I'm going to delete some of the original connections that I had previously to have cleaner ones now that the galley's going in. And then the galley will also need its own campfires. Oops, not that tight. There we go. All right. Now that we have galley, let's get a campfire. And the campfires, I'll put one in there. And again, repaint the paths. Yep, it's a lot of labor to make it look okay. And that shortcut's fine. There we go. So between the house, and I'm sure we're going to need more tents. And all of this is to support the gun tower. It's the infrastructure we need in order to make our own gunpowder from the island, rather than having to rely on raiding to get it.
Let's get to it.
All right, I'm going to send Teach out to this shipwreck to start filling the complete the events with Teach. And we can now claim an Empire point. And I'm going to get the elevator.
All shall fear us.
And with that Empire point claimed, I'm just going to get rid of the camp I made because it was just temporary. I never intended to keep it. So Teach will be there in 2.5 minutes.
Waiting.
And we're waiting for the rest of the infrastructure here to be set up. So the woodcutter sends wood to the charburner. The charburner at the moment is grabbing stone from the wrong spot. So I'm going to right click this and create a new stone connection adjacent. Done. And that's a lot shorter of a fetch. Because the this stone wasn't built in time. This powder mill still requires some more cut stone being imported from the other stone cutter. And the kitchen here should not stock from, stock from the adjacent campfire, right? They don't necessarily know. You'll have to go over it to make sure that they're connected. All right, I got another deed point. What was it? Efficient transports to the galley. Okay, we got a free wealth point that I wasn't even aiming to get. I'm going to get a trading post for that. And in fact, I'm going to set up the trading post very close to the pier that we have. For reasons I'll explain in a little bit. But essentially, any resources that you get from raiding, you can sell at the trade port if you don't have a use for it to get coin. It's not a bad way to get coin. Small amounts of coin, but pretty predictable. Alright, satisfaction in Rogue's Reef, which is our second camp, is now going up because housing and food is now supplied. And the powder mill is almost done being built. Alright, there's the powder mill. So what we're going to do in the powder mill is we're going to stockpile powder from the powder mill in the warehouse right next to the gun tower. And then we're going to tell the gun tower to stockpile its gunpowder from the warehouse. And then I'm also going to tell the warehouse to grab the gunpowder from the port, because the port has like 10 more gunpowder that can be imported. I don't necessarily need to stockpile any of the intermediary resources. I really only care about stockpiling the gunpowder. I don't need a big stockpile of guano or char or any of that. Now for the char burner, for this path here is kind of lengthy, right? Takes a while. So what we could do in this instance is speed up the delivery, because we know that the char here, the charcoal, only travels one way to the char burner. One way to speed this up would be like setting up a mast and a zip line like that. So now if you look at the supply chain, it's a lot shorter. It doesn't go winding around the cliffs. It just goes up the mast and straight to it very, very quickly. We might not, because of the vertical difference, even need a mast. So I'll delete it and see. Yep, yeah, we don't even need a mast. We can deliver it just by zipline without mast. And that's, I would say, even cleaner. So here we go. Perfect. And it will yeah, there, it's a green path. That's how short it is. And then the gunpowder is being stored here. Right? So then, alternatively, we could just do a zip line down to the warehouse. So then the gunpowder is delivered way more efficiently. And that's one of the benefits of these high efficiency connectors. They cost a little gold, but they can save you a lot of time. So zip lines are really slow going up, very fast going down. So they're basically a one-way. They're technically a two-way, but you can think of them as kind of a one-way. The vessel's carcass lingers just below the surface, surrounded by the vicious shark that infested these waters. The cargo hold is still unplundered. So a choice: one, pick him clean, getting a lot of salt and coin, but losing 10 crew. Or we loot responsibly, getting half or a fraction of the resources, but only losing 3 crew. Alright, loot like a hog. Who's afraid of sharks? Not us, apparently. The beasts injure many of our crew, but we get a hefty pile of plunder in return.
Let's get to it.
Alright, I'm going to return back to port before going anywhere else, because I want to replenish the crew. Oh, our gun tower, like, used all of the gunpowder already? Alright, taking a look. We have a net positive of food here. Trend of +4. And plenty of housing, and satisfaction is approaching 100%. Also, the population here is dictated by the work found. Two of those workers are temporary, I think, because they're just builders that are building stuff. There you have it. We now have a supported gun tower. So the next priority is unlock the steel edge ship. So the steel edge ship, if we open it up, we want this bad boy, steel edge. And we'll need 2 more seafaring and 2 more empire points to get that done. So let's take a look at some of the seafaring deals. Scavenging the remains of sunken ships. Building a level 2 ship. So what we could do in this case is gain 2 empire points, build the level 2 empire ship, unlock the build a level 2 ship to give us the steel edge. So we'll go in that path. So I've sort of pinned the things I intend to do here. So we need to get another sunken ship wreck, ideally. There is a crown port over here that we might be able to manage. It recommends that we have a level 1 destroyer, which we don't at the moment have, so that might be a little tricky. So doing more advance with Teach and getting that, before we do the crown port might be the easiest path. Another thing I want to stockpile is stone blocks from the stone cutter. But in this case, what I'm going to do is I'm going to create another... You know what? I'm actually going to change my mind about something fundamentally. I'm going to create another warehouse over here. This warehouse is going to stop doing gunpowder. I want to have this warehouse just be for the pier materials. And this warehouse will be for gunpowder and for stone and things like that. Does it count if we sink a ship? No, it doesn't. Which also means the zip line is no longer required. Okay. So, fetch stone and fetch gunpowder. Because I'd like to stockpile stone blocks because they're a very useful construction resource that you usually just need them in big bulk all of a sudden. So having only like 10 stockpiled here in the stone cutter isn't really a smart idea, because if we have a big project, we're just going to have to wait for it to process. So rather than keep them idle most of the time, I'll have them keep moving. All right, Teach is back. Now, perfect example. We have 500 salt. What I'm going to do is I'm going to sell it. So I'm going to tell a fetcher to go fetch the salt to sell to market, because I have no use for salt right now.
I'm waiting.
And then let's go and replenish the swabbies.
Ready.
And send Teach out to Flotsam. Or Jetsam.
The world is ours.
And then we're going to have this warehouse also pull the gunpowder out of the original one. Looking good. Now, in the case where 2 camps overlap, right, as you can see, both camps overlap this shallow pier, I can also, hitting this button, change which camp this pier is assigned to. And if you're wondering what would happen, if I did that right now, all of my swabbies would start drinking from the tavern that doesn't exist here and piss them all off. So there's a reason to do that. Let's say you have one camp do cassava bread and the other camp do rum, and you want to switch the type of ship that you're supporting, you can switch the pier to the camps. So it's like, if all of a sudden you need cassava bread for your crew rather than rum for your crew, you can switch camps. So it could be helpful for a building to switch ownership like that. All right, let's quickly just take a look at all our supply chain. And generally speaking, it's pretty good. Now, if we wanted material to move from the sawmill to the warehouse more quickly, I'm quite frankly... We could aerial lift it. Oh, it's too long by like an inch. We could zip it over if we had a mast, maybe. But ultimately, I don't think it really matters that much because we already have 108 planks here. And we lose a little bit of efficiency, but it's acceptable because it's really only stockpiled to make sure that we can repair our ships. Thank you for tuning in to Corsair Cove, which originally streamed live on Twitch. If you have any questions for me, let me know in the comments below. If you would like to catch a live stream of mine, Rhadamant.com has my stream schedule and countdown timers to upcoming streams. If you'd like to join my online gaming community on Discord, Rhadamant.com has a link to it, as does the description of this video. Thank you so very much for watching. Special thank you to my Twitch subscribers, Patreon patrons, and viewers like you that support the channel and made it all the way to the credits. Thank you so very much. I hope to catch you next episode or an upcoming stream. Farewell, my fellow Corsairs.